My name is Maxime. I am the River School educator at Ottawa Riverkeeper, and this afternoon I will be your MC for an afternoon filled with fun, learning, and lots of incredible guests. Pour commencer l'après-midi, j'ai le plaisir de vous introduire à Lanouette.
Merci. Kwe Kakina, Nino Tikida Kakina. Hello, good day everyone. Bonjour à tous le monde. Pija Jik Tiki Sigi, Pakanando, Takina, Rhea Gina, Linji, Maigan, Oji Jesus. Welcome Ottawa River Keepers and guests to the Ottawa annual public meeting. Bienvenue gardien de la rivière Ottawa à l'Assemblée générale annuelle. My name is Jerry Lanouette. I'm Omami Winiwak, Anishinaabe from the Algonquins of Barrier Lake, one of the most impoverished communities of the 634 First Nations communities, or 641 First Nations. My community is also at the very top of the Ottawa River watershed. It's nice to see a lot of our Algonquin community members, friends, family that are here today, and was a little bit unexpected to be here. As some of you may know, Claudette Amanda, Cody, once she asks you to do something, you just do it. So in the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation, there are 11 Algonquin communities along the Ottawa-Kitchissippi River watershed. 9 of these communities are in Quebec: Kitigan-Zibi, Barrier Lake, Kitchissakik, Daxuon, Bitsouini, Long Point, Temiskaming, Kabeowek, and Wolf Lake. The other 2 Algonquin communities are Pikwakanagan and Pitsiki that are in Ontario. So there are 32,000 people who identify as Algonquin, with more than 13,000 people who identify as living on reserve or on their own territory near their reserves, and the balance of the rest of the people living on other reserves or in major urban centers. So I just wanted to mention that I've known about the Ottawa River Keepers for about 20 some odd years. At one point early, about maybe 23 years ago, I forget now, it's been so long. I was the president of the Ottawa Native Friendship Center. So we used to hold a lot of your meetings there because we gave free space. So of course, when you're a non-profit, free space is always a great thing to hear. So I was mentioning that this is my second event today, because today is Indigenous Veterans Day. So for those of you who are wearing your poppy Naomi, I participated in the Ottawa Native Friendship Center ceremony this morning at the National Indigenous Veterans Monument in Confederation Park. So I did this to pay respects to the service and sacrifice of Indigenous veterans. I myself served in the Armed Forces in the late 70s, and while it was a different world back then, very racist, very condescending, I slowly see it starting to change within the Armed Forces. However, I still hold my experience of when I was in there. But I do go there to pay respects for the service and sacrifices of Indigenous veterans who were never properly recognized or acknowledged. While the ceremony was open to the public this morning, there were not many non-Indigenous people there. So I have to wear a beaded poppy all the time instead of a regular poppy on Indigenous Veterans Day, and of course observe November 8th as our Remembrance Day, but also remember that November 11th is Canada's Remembrance Day. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit men and women who were involved with the protection of this country have been doing so for more than 500 years. During World War I and II and the Korean conflict, there have been well over 12,000 First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people who have served for Canada during these wars and conflicts, and in peacekeeping tours such as one that I was in. They fought on the front lines of major battles. Many times they were the first in line of fire. Throughout the wars, they fought and defended with valor and distinction. So I do this in honor of their selfless service, as First Nations had to give up their status and treaty rights by enfranchising in order to serve this country. A lot of times when they went off to war because they had been away from the reserve for more than 5 years, they lost their status. So they couldn't go back to live on the reserve. While they were told they were entitled to veterans' homes, Indigenous veterans were never given any veterans' homes. They had to fight for themselves.
Thank you so much for that moving welcome, Jerry. Poursuivons cet événement avec quelques mots de Margot Sunter, vice-présidente du conseil d'administration des Garde-rivière d'Histoire, qui s'exprime au nom du conseil d'administration.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. I think every time I come here, I learn something. Not always a comfortable learning, but thank you for sharing your story. So on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to welcome you to the annual public meeting and thank you for taking the time to come here today. And I know I'm joined by a few fellow board members, so if you can just raise your hand so people can see who you are. Thank you for coming. It's great, and thank you for all that you do. It's a chance for us to celebrate the past year, to share the amazing work of the Ottawa Riverkeeper team. And if that's you today or in the past, just raise your hand as well, because the work that this small but mighty organization does is certainly incredible. And finally, I know in the audience we have many critical supporters for our river, our volunteers and our donors, and thank you. I wanted to share a little of why the Ottawa River inspires me and what brought me to this board. I'm sure like many people, I have the pleasure of walking, running, and cycling along the shores of our beautiful river many times each week and in all weather. I also belong to a wonderful group of open water swimmers, nothing like what some people in this room have done, but we do get out early in the morning in the summer and sometimes in the winter too, and we always pause to recognize the beauty of where we are. Looking at the river brings me peace and wonder, and having the pleasure of coming to this building for our board meetings helps center our purpose simply by looking out the window. Nature paints a picture that never ceases to amaze me. And knowing that our river, the one we rely on and often takes for granted, needs our help today and for future generations is what drives our board to work together. So whether a member of our staff, a board, a donor, a volunteer, we share a vision and we believe in the same cause. So please take a moment before you leave, share a smile and a few words with those around you, because we are all in this together. And from all of us at the Riverkeeper, thank you for all you do.
Merci beaucoup, Margot, pour ce mot inspirant. We're so lucky to have such a dedicated involved board of directors. It's now time to thank the presenting sponsor of this event. Keeping us well fed and ensuring the event can take place, un sponsor à long terme de Garde-rivière d'Histoire, Dentons a une passion pour la protection de l'eau douce et soutient depuis longtemps Garde-rivière d'Histoire en étant le sponsor de notre gala depuis 2005 et le sponsor principal de notre APA depuis 2018. Here to discuss more and to tell us why this organization is so passionate about watershed stewardship, we welcome Lampros Stougiannos.
On my speech. Good afternoon. Before I say anything, I just want to thank you for your service to our country. So my name is Lampros. I'm a partner at Dentons. I'm contractually obligated to say that Dentons is the world's largest law firm. If I didn't, I'd get in trouble. But despite that, we're deeply involved in the communities that we practice in and that we call home. Dentons has been and remains a very proud supporter of Ottawa Riverkeeper. In fact, my partner at Dentons, Laura Reinsborough, served on the board for many, many years, and our office has supported the Ottawa Riverkeeper's mission in a variety of ways throughout the years. We will continue to do so in the future, and we couldn't be prouder to support this event. So I was asked to say a few words about what I love about the Kichizidi, the Ottawa River, La Rivière des Outaouais. And being a man placed in a position where he's asked to speak from the heart, I did the smartest thing I can think of. I asked my wife. I said, what should I say? And she said, say that you love the river because it unites the land and its people. And I thought that was perfect. And we need to protect it and preserve it. I want to thank you all for being here at Ottawa Riverkeeper's annual public meeting. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Et bonne journée.
Thank you so much, Lampros, for sharing those words. And to your wife, that's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment. So a big thank you to Dentons for supporting our efforts, but also for supporting this event. Thank you also to Margot and for your leadership, and on behalf of the whole board, your leadership. It's a really amazing board that we have. I feel very, very lucky to work so closely with them. Thank you also, I want to say thanks to Maxime for being our MC this evening. He is, as you heard, our river school educator, but he brings his radio voice, his classroom voice, to being our MC at the APM. So thank you so much, Maxime. And thanks to the whole staff team. You've heard from many of them today, and they, I mean, in my opinion, are just knocking it out of the park. So it's such a joy every day to show up to work with such a great team. I also want to say a big thank you to Jerry for offering the welcome. Good call, doing what Claudette asks. I think that's a wise action. And I want to add to your welcome to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded and unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people, who have long upheld the ecological integrity and health of the Kichisibi, the Ottawa River. And Ottawa Riverkeeper honors the Algonquin water protectors, particularly the Anishinaabe Kwe, who have done the work of water protection for so long and continue to do so. Ottawa Riverkeeper is not here to stand in place of that work. We stand alongside and try to complement the work of water protectors. And just as Jerry outlined some of the systematic ways in which Indigenous veterans have been disenfranchised from community and from rights, there have been so many parallels of how Indigenous peoples, and the Anishinaabe Algonquin in particular, have been disenfranchised from community, from connection, from land, and from water. And so in coming together today, this is a small step to be able to stitch those back together and to do some healing. So thank you for all that you shared. Oh, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Laura Reinsborough, I'm the Riverkeeper and CEO. Bonjour tout le monde, moi je m'appelle Laura Reinsborough. Je suis la Garde-rivière des Outaouais, la directrice générale. Puis ça me fait grand plaisir de vous accueillir ici aujourd'hui, cet après-midi, au nom de Garde-rivière des Outaouais. We're going to go through some highlights from the last year of what our community, this community, Ottawa Riverkeeper, has accomplished. And it's really important that we do this work not only by the river, but today we get to be doing so on the river. I guess the water is in quite low flow at this time of year, but it does flow under this building. So we're very nestled right now, hugged almost by the river. Et je pense que c'était important d'être si près de la rivière parce que, non seulement parce que la rivière nous calme, oui, le ressentez-vous, but also because the river is a witness to what I'm going to share today. It is a witness to our actions and our efforts to be this close to talking about the river and what we're trying to do to help the river. means that the river gets to hear this. And I think that adds a bit of accountability, not only to be sharing amongst this community, but also to be sharing to the river what it is that we're trying to do to help. I also want to acknowledge and thank the elected officials who have shown up today and show up so many times to support Ottawa Riverkeeper. MP Mona Fortier, I believe she had to leave, but had shown up and helped out and supported today. And I also want to acknowledge MPP Lucille Collard, who is here today. Merci d'être venu. And it's so wonderful to have so many elected officials who also recognize the importance of the river and not only say that, but do the actions that support it. Okay, so we've done a lot over the last year, and the very first piece of anything that we do is that we listen. Nous écoutons à la rivière. What does the river need? What is at what are the most pressing needs from the river? And we listen to the river. That is at the core of our mission. It's at the core of everything that we do. And a lot of that is through scientific means. We have extensive science programming to be able to better understand what it is that the river needs. And so in 2024, we released our watershed report card. It says the year right there, which might make you think we're going to be releasing one every year. No, no way. It's a huge effort. It was actually started in 2018 to develop this report card, and it will likely take us 5 to 10 more to get the next one published. But there is significant evidence in here that points to the river's needs and shows us what we need to be working on. And so this year, we have continued to work from that. Like any good science, it often raises more questions than it gives answers. And so this year, we published a number of in-depth reports from questions that emerged from our watershed report card on topics like invasive species, land use, total phosphorus, and road salt, a number of different concerns that the river holds. And those reports are now publicly available and shared collaboratively. We build off of those to be able to inform our advocacy work. But how do we get all the information? Well, sometimes there's other organizations out there or government agencies gathering data, but often for the Ottawa River, there is not. And so, Ottawa Riverkeeper does community-based monitoring to be able to gather data and better understand what the river needs. In fact, over the last year, 167 community science volunteers helped out in our programming. I think a few of them are here today. Please raise your hand if you're a community-based monitoring. Yes, yes, yes. That kind of volunteering usually gets you wet. Sometimes you're out in very inclement weather, and so we were really, really grateful. Those volunteers collected nearly 400 samples and made nearly 800 observations on a range of topics that are helping to give us that picture of watershed health. They're really the eyes and ears all across this vast watershed. This year, this work also informed our invasive species work. So we dug deeper into the lack of reporting data for some invasive species, and we also engaged the public on some awareness raising on invasive species, because we focus specifically on the aquatic invasive species, and not everybody is in or on our waterways to see and understand and listen to those species. So we developed some fun and engaging quizzes. Maybe some of you even did them today as we had them out today. One of the areas where we grew the most over the last year is education. So when we listen and learn from the river, we also want to share it out. We're not gathering data for data's sake. We want to engage learners, youth, students, children. And so last year, we launched River School. It was a vision, long time in the making, to be able to build that next generation of water leaders. I like to say we're playing the long game here. Yes, we act now to influence decision makers, but we also want to build that next generation where they don't need to be convinced about why they should be helping to care for the river. We are helping to establish what those deeper values and beliefs are. We know that people protect what they love. So how can we establish that love and understanding for the river from the get-go? So when we launched River School, we had a big ambitious dream. Oh my, it really took off. The interest was there. We were able to offer free education workshops to public schools, and in fact, we had 4,050 students, both across Quebec and Ontario, and we prioritized serving schools that themselves serve priority or underserved communities. Well, that we were able to achieve too. 57.5%, more than half of the workshops we delivered were to underserved schools. And so we could make that correlation that usually that's for students who themselves may not have access to see the river, to be on the river, to understand how their own drinking water is sourced from this river. They are deeply connected to this source of their life. And here we get to bring that to their classrooms. And now that we're here at River House, just below you, right here, is our River School classroom. And so with that initiative, we were able to bring in over 150 school workshops. Our education work, when we moved into this space, also connected with youth in building a birch bark canoe. And so the canoe, which actually made its debut here at the APM last year, is back in the room today. You've seen the time-lapse video of its build. And on July 1st of this year, we launched the canoe with ceremony into the water. It was built with knowledge holder Pinnock Smith and by urban Indigenous youth through a collaboration with the Assemblée of 7 generations. But why does this tie in with education? Well, this year we also completed, or are about to complete, a documentary about the build of the canoe, which ties in themes of how the canoe ties together forest and river, land and water. And so that brings about the teachings of ecological health, how the canoe actually needs a healthy forest to be able to be built, and that it also needs water to remain supple. It needs to be used and be used on the river. And so that ties in those ecological teachings. And thanks to Karina, who's been back there showing the canoe off today, that she has built, as an Algonquin educator, she's built an educator's guide that will be used in schools this year. So I want to show you a short video that gives a little snippet of the educational documentary that we'll be bringing into schools. On our AD team for today is Liam, our scientist. So, you know when it says other duties as necessary? That's what he's up to today. Thank you, Liam.
When I get up close, I don't always have the opportunity to bring people to show them how to harvest the material. Anything that you can touch or feel makes it more realistic than hearing about it. And that's why when I go out, I always let people touch it, feel it, you know, they get the feeling of it. And they realize that it's comes from nature.
When you're working with the land, you could read as many books as you want about how to do like a birch bark canoe or how to work on a hide, but you'll never actually know how to do it until you use your hands. That's what really drew us to this project with the Ottawa Riverkeepers and
I like to talk with young people. Their minds are like sponges, you know, they absorb it away. They learn, they actually learn, you know, and if you have the time to watch me do it, you will learn, and I will teach you.
that's just the trailer, but the longer educational documentary and the accompanying educator's guide are bringing those rich experiences that those youth had in building the canoe into classrooms soon when that guide will be launched. And so with that, we have a commitment to be able to make sure that the youth who built the canoe, as they were building it, we learned that they were not comfortable paddling the canoe. And so this summer we were also able to support the youth to take paddling training. That was in collaboration with our housemates here at River House, ONEC, where they learned paddling skills, but they also did it combined with cultural teachings. And so, that's such an emblematic initiative for us to be part of. I also want to share how we share our information out with the public. So we had a speaker series this summer where 20 guest speakers gave their time, and 624 guests ended up showing up across the different events. We called it Current Conversations, like Conversation au courant, and that was exploring new ways to engage and share about the river. Themes like the rights of rivers, about paddling and swimming. We had a river surfer who also happens to be a well-known Canadian singer-songwriter, Mia Kelly, and Honorary Riverkeeper Jill Heiner, who spoke about scuba diving in the Ottawa River caves. And one piece I want to highlight, une chose que j'aimerais souligner, c'est il y avait une collaboration avec les poètes de la ville d'Ottawa. So the Poets Laureate of the City of Ottawa collaborated. They hosted a session where 8 poets came and created original works of poetry for the event and then compiled them in a chapbook. And so for everybody who's receiving an award later in this program, we've put in one of the chapbooks for you as well. So this is a beautiful, French and English poems in here that celebrate the river. It's that kind of partnership that really can expand and amplify our reach. Also in our space, our public-facing space, we installed museum-quality exhibits. We've pulled a couple of them upstairs today here so that you can see those. Did anybody touch the otter fur? Does anybody remember how many otter furs are in a square centimeter? 58,500. Good job, Gold Star. Gold Star. Right? Doesn't that blow your mind? I don't believe it. I mean, we fact-checked it, but still. And we had over 4,000 visitors come through that space. We also tried to make easy access for more people to get hands-on in helping the river with our water shed. So it's a shed. It actually is a shed. A repurposed shipping container. En français, on dit l'entrepôt, comme eau. Okay, we tried. So it's a repurposed shipping container. It's actually just up the hill across the way where it's easy access. People can drive up there. We give them a code when they're looking to borrow some materials. Educators can borrow our materials to bring into their classrooms. And also community groups can borrow our shoreline cleanup kits. So we held 9 shoreline cleanups last year that Ottawa Riverkeeper organized. Plus, that number nearly doubled. 8 community groups led their own shoreline cleanups by simply borrowing those materials. And it comes with a handy guide about how to lead one safely and securely. And so we're expanding our impact in creative ways. In total, that led to removing 1,340 kilograms of waste with the help of over 800 volunteers to do the work. So thank you to everybody who participated in shoreline cleanup. Is that anybody here today? My kid and I went to one. It's super fun, so fun, yeah. On advocacy, we share the information that we do with educators, with schools, with the public, but also with decision makers. We want to make sure that the data we collect helps inform their decisions. And so this summer we were very involved trying to influence Ottawa Public Health to reverse their decision on removing testing 7 days a week down to 1. And thank you, because you made your voices heard 1,863 signatures were on our petition that we presented to Ottawa Public Health. Actually, there were over 2,000. We just had to make sure they were City of Ottawa residents to go directly onto the petition. And with new and emerging contaminants like PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, we sampled 9 locations. We had never done this before in the watershed, but we want to make sure, as the federal government is deciding about how PFAS will be regulated, that we can point to concrete examples of how much that contamination is affecting our own very source of drinking water. And this year, we published a 5-year review of our road salt reporting and our 3rd annual Road Salt Reduction Week. Lastly, but certainly not least, the Big River Give. So we launched our first ever major fundraising campaign June of last year. Honorary Riverkeeper Mark Carney, who has some new title these days, he helped launch that campaign, and last year around this time we were at 68% of our goal of raising $5 million. Today, I'm so excited to share we're at 97%. It's so close, we can see that finish line, and that is making the work, all of this programming possible. We can do more now that we have this facility on the river. All of the education and outreach programming has gone to new heights thanks to the Big River Give. And so we are deeply grateful for those who have given to the Big River Give, and we're so excited to celebrate when we get across that finish line. This past year has been another amazing chapter in growing love and appreciation for the Ottawa River, and it can only be done with a community this loving and supportive. So thank you to the volunteers who give their time. Thank you to the donors who give generously to amplify the possibilities. Thank you to those who spread the word about what we do. I heard there were some people today who were like, yes, we've signed up. There you are. You've signed up new people and across the watershed. And yet, you know, what I'm sharing today are the achievements kind of within the box of Ottawa Riverkeeper. But each of you are also, I know, doing your work or your own efforts to be able to share and love and protect and care for the river. Chacun de vous, vous faites ce que vous pouvez pour protéger la rivière. And so I'll just invite you for a moment to think what would be on your annual report for the year, your personal one of what you have done to show your love and appreciation and put that thought and care into caring for the river. And I want to remind you that this community is an audience to these sharings today, but that so is the river surrounding us and holding space for us here. And so those actions, those efforts that you have done, the river is a witness to that, to know and appreciate what you have done. So with that, I want to thank you for your time today. We've got some exciting awards coming up, but I really deeply appreciate being in this work together with such a great community. So thank you. Merci, miigwech.
Thank you, Laura, for this fantastic report. Yes, we've had a busy year at Ottawa Riverkeeper. As you know, it takes a watershed community to protect a river. And to implement all these amazing programs, it takes time and skills of volunteers. They are the ones who make the difference. Vous êtes tous bien capables de supporter passer avec ça, et à mes yeux, vous êtes tous bénévoles. We have so many volunteers who work tirelessly to share our programs, our issues, and spread the word about our work. Today, we want to take a moment to recognize a couple of volunteers who continuously go the extra mile and have made waves of impact in the watershed. A quick shout out to Nico Austin, we have wishes to help us provide a small gift of appreciation for the volunteers. So, the first of our award presentations is for the Riverkeeper Award. This is our inaugural year presenting this award. This award recognizes the efforts of teachers who are making a difference in the watershed by actively encouraging their students to learn about, explore, and advocate to or for our watershed health. The school organized multiple activities to allow the students to look at the Ottawa River through environmental analysis, which in turn led to students implementing a fundraising activity selling t-shirts to support the work of Ottawa Riverkeeper. They raised a total of $750 and also utilized multiple shoreline cleanups. We have a shirt here that demonstrates the efforts of the school and the teacher.
My name is Marina Summers. I'm currently the resource teacher at St. Michael Fitzroy School.
My name is Tanya Vick, and I am the grade 2 teacher.
As part of our staff, our school partnered with the Ottawa Riverkeepers.
Our school backs onto the Pittsburgh Provincial Park. A colleague and I, the grade 1 teacher, Andrew Wilson, decided we would probably like to do a project that centers around the Ottawa River. In the fall, Erin Waters joined our team. She is the grade 1-2 French teacher. We have already done one cleanup at the riverbank in the fall, and we are planning to do another one in the spring.
We have looked at the Ottawa River through a variety of lenses: scientific, environmental, Indigenous, and we've really come to appreciate how special it is and how lucky we are to be within a stone's throw of such an important waterway. Our grade 1 and 2 classes are engaged in the OCSB's social entrepreneurial program. They've spent so much time with Albert Dumont, who's a poet, a storyteller, speaker, and an Algonquin traditional teacher. Through meeting with Albert Dumont, they have really learned the Indigenous importance in terms of gathering place and major travel way. We believe that our project really hits all of the 6 C's in deep learning. Our students really form strong collaborations with community partners, and they have become really rich creators in that they've created their own organization called the Ottawa Guardians, which really translates roughly to "it is the earth." This partnership has really made an impact on our students. So they decided that they would like to sell t-shirts and raise money to help organizations like the Ottawa Riverkeepers. They also want to raise money for an Indigenous group. We would like to thank the Ottawa Riverkeepers, particularly Julia Ostertag and Maxime Chaumont-Lessard. Albert Dumont, who imparted his wisdom in the historical facts of the Ottawa River. Our SEP mentor, Steve Georgopoulos. And finally, OCSB Indigenous Learning Team. Your devotion to us and to helping us along our journey has been memorable and treasured.
Nous sommes les enfants de la terre, les astronautes de la territoire du peuple adopté, Lanouette.
Donc, félicitations à l'école Saint-Michael Fitzroy et tous les élèves et enseignants qui travaillent ensemble pour la santé du bassin versant. Here to accept the award on behalf of the school are Andrew Wilson and Tanya Vick. Please give them a round of applause. Notre prochain prix est le prix de l'impact communautaire dans le bassin versant. This award recognizes a volunteer who has worked on specific river issues, showed exceptional commitment to watershed protection, and aids their community in getting out on the river. Le gagnant est quelqu'un qui incarne l'esprit de la protection du bassin versant en mettant l'accent sur l'implication de la communauté dans notre effort. This year, we are proud to present this award to Sarah Dobbin. So, Sarah initiated a 50K marathon swim down the Ottawa River to raise awareness about protecting the river and to raise funds for Ottawa Riverkeeper in the process. On August 21st, Sarah completed the 50-kilometer swim in 15 hours of continuous swimming, being the first person to complete a marathon swim in the Ottawa River. Well, certainly an achievement to be proud of.
We also have to say, did you say about the fundraising?
Yes.
No,
I didn't mention the detail.
This is very important. No, but
Also, we were so eager to give you a prize that we didn't mention all the detail. So, Shad certainly said we are fundraising $5,000, and far exceeded this target, raising over $16,000. Not only does it swing a huge success in terms of personal and physical achievement, it highlighted the fact that we are fortunate to have a river this swimmable. Sarah is a shining example of an advocate who is passionate about the cause, dedicated to preserving the health of our waterways to ensure future generations can also enjoy them. Because of this win, and as a direct result of Sarah's effort to share the message far and wide, the issues around water quality have been highlighted and brought to the attention of people who may not realize have given it much thought. Can you please give another round of applause to Sarah? And now, last but certainly not least, we have the female Dentons Outstanding Award. Ce prix reconnaît un prix qui a apporté une contribution significative à Garde-rivière municipale. The winner of this award contributes a high number of hours volunteering for Ottawa Riverkeeper specific events and projects, as well as a long-term ongoing commitment to support the organization. We are so happy to present this year's Dentons Outstanding Volunteer Award to Chantal Sicot. Chantal has proved to be a very reliable volunteer. Is always one of the first to respond to those spaces in the learning lab and shares her passion for the river and watershed with all its visitors. Une bénévole dédiée, Chantal est aussi souvent présente au nettoyage des berges et soutient l'équipe scientifique comme surveillante de la rivière à Lanouette. She also participates in non-stop mentoring in the winter months. She volunteers at the Gala, at the Rose of Riverkeeper events where volunteers are needed, often bringing members of her family around to help out. She's a great advocate for the river, ensuring her understanding with people of all ages and language. We are so lucky to have such a knowledgeable and passionate supporter and advocate for the river. Everyone, please give another round of applause to Chantal. Thank you so much to all our incredible volunteers. You are all such superstars in the Ottawa River is so lucky to have you. And right now, a special award we'd like to present, the Water Leader Award. This annual award recognizes groups or individuals who are doing incredible work for the sake of the Ottawa River watershed and water protection in general, an outstanding contribution to sustainable drinkable and fishable water, and an emphasis on community. Water leaders use their principles and vision to build movements and inspire their peers to step up for our shared river. Another leader is someone who has a personal connection to the water. Et quand on est au sujet du bassin versant, régulièrement interacts with the river, comme on est là et régulièrement qui concerne nous, Pas de spéciaux et de stewardship, il faut un profond engagement en faveur de la protection des douces. To present this award, it is my honor to introduce Naomi Sarazin. Naomi is a member of Dentons of Publique First Nation and a former Ottawa Riverkeeper, board director and staff member. She's been actively supporting Ottawa Riverkeeper for the past 6 years, bringing her dedication and expertise to the stewardship of the Ottawa River watershed. Please give a warm welcome to Naomi Sarazin.
Kwei Kagina, Nijibik and Indigenous cause, Mangin Dodem, Wakanagan, Nidonjaba. My name is Naomi, as you had mentioned. I am honored to present this year's Water Leader Award on behalf of Ottawa Riverkeeper to an individual, oh my God, who embodies the very essence of community leadership, my dear friend and colleague, Sunshine Tenasco. Yes. From the moment you meet Sunshine, you understand how fitting her name truly is. She has a presence that fills a room through warmth, compassion, and authenticity. She leads with heart and brings out the good in everyone she meets. Sunshine is a movement builder. She doesn't just talk about change, she creates it. She has this incredible gift of bringing people together, weaving connections, and building movements with love and purpose. Today, we celebrate you, Sunshine. Someone who lives with immense joy and passion, and who embraces their life's purpose with courage and heart. For those who may not know her yet, let me share how she has redefined what it means to be a water leader. Sunshine has a way of making people feel seen, valued, and inspired to walk their own path. She is a proud Anishinaabe Kwe from Kitigan-Zibi Anishinaabe who cherishes her role as a mother above all else. You see, as women, we are entrusted by creation with the responsibility of being the only vessels capable of bringing life into this world. Every person in this room spent the first part of their lives embodied by water before birth in their mother's womb. We are all connected to water as a life source because of our mothers. And as Anishinaabe, we honor our first life source, Mother Earth, who nourishes and sustains us all. Sunshine's journey started as a daughter, grew through motherhood, and has blossomed into her life's path as a leader in community empowerment. She inspires others to walk beside her on the shared journey toward clean drinking water for all First Nations. Through her book, Nubi's Water Song, and her social enterprise, Her Braids, she turns advocacy into tangible action that people of all ages can get behind. Her leadership reflects a deep commitment to ensuring safe, clean drinking water for First Nations communities, honoring the lands and waters that sustain us, the communities who depend on them, and the generations who will inherit them. Through her tireless efforts, she reminds us of the sacred connection between water and life, and of our shared responsibility to protect it with love and care. Sunshine, your life story is a beautiful reminder that each of us has the ability to make a difference. And together, we can ensure a healthier Ottawa River watershed for generations to come. On behalf of all those you have touched and inspired by your leadership, Kichimiigwech for your courage, vision, and unwavering voice for water and community. And with that, it is my great honor that I invite you to receive the Ottawa Riverkeeper Nibi Nagani Ganagdagi Water Leader Award. stretch. That was quite possibly the best introduction I've ever received in my entire life. I was fine. And when I heard that introduction from someone who I love dearly, and that shook me right to my core, so thank you very much. This was unexpected. I guess I'll tell you a brief story about why I got involved into this space. Our community hasn't had clean drinking water since 2019. I come from Kidagan-Zibi and Anishinaabe, and boil water advisories are very common, things like that. And about 11 years ago, on St. Joseph and Hull, a water pipe broke. And on a local radio station, they were announcing it every hour on the hour with such urgency about you can't drink your water, there's a boil water advisory. And people were calling in with, panic in their voices, and they didn't know what to do, they didn't know how long to boil their water. And I thought, well, that's strange. Not everybody knew about a boil water advisory. And then the next hour, again, and people were calling in and saying, what about my grandma? What about my babies? If they're having trouble, can they drink it? Can they bathe in it? All questions that we already knew about in Kidagan-Zibi. And by the third hour, I was right pissed off about it. And I said, wait a minute. We've been dealing with this issue at the time for like 14 years. And there hasn't been a solution. And they had that water pipe fixed, they took the whole road up, all the cement, they had paved roads, sidewalks, and they had it fixed within months. Months. Not 14 years. Months. Oh, what is that? And what felt like a direct attack on my people and my community. And so I thought I'm going to do something about it. And what am I good at? I'm good at beading and crafting and all that stuff. So I made these beaded pendants right here. And I emailed the David Suzuki Foundation of the Blue Dot Movement. And I said, I'd really like to bring awareness about the lack of clean drinking water in First Nations communities. And they said, absolutely, let's do it. We've just been waiting for an Indigenous person to lead it. I wasn't expecting them to say yes. So then I sat with that for a few months and created Herb Raids, which was a movement to talk about the lack of clean drinking water. Maybe I'll just explain it because Naomi gave such a great introduction as to, Mother Earth, and that we are all children of the water. And the reason I named it Herb Raids, which at the time felt so easy to understand for me, and then fast forward realizing that maybe it's not that, common. But when we braid our hair to go into ceremony, wherever, we take 3 strands of hair. And they're going to be equal strands of hair. And we remind ourselves every time we turn the braid, mind, body, spirit. Mind, body, spirit. Mind, body, spirit. And we need all 3 aspects of those, us as human beings, to be working together. And if our mind and our body or something's not working, right, we're all human beings and we have to be equal. And so our bodies need to be healthy. Our bodies, we are actually made of water. And if we don't have access to clean drinking water, how can we expect us as human beings to be whole and centered? And so I started Herb Raids and was just sort of on a mission to talk about clean drinking water and how it's not a human right in Canada, but it should be, and it will directly impact First Nations communities in Canada specifically, because we keep falling through the cracks. And so then I started giving workshops. People started asking to do their own workshops, and once that started, then parents and teachers would ask me, can you do something for my children? And so I wrote Nabu's Water Song, and I wrote a few for anybody who has children. This was quite a while ago. I was just talking about this with Kirsa, like maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I wrote this book, before the pandemic anyways, when we can meet. And Nabu means water in Anishinaabe, And it's just about this little girl's, and it's also coincidentally one of my daughter's names back there, little B. And it just talks about how if we work together, that we can all make clean drinking water accessible, but we have to work together. And there's just something more, and I know it's very fun, and it's a beautiful, brown, happy girl, which I think is so important for our nations to see ourselves represented in a positive way and making change with love and song and goodness. But there's one part here, and so Scholastics Canada published this book, and I'll just read you one of the pages here. The nice lady who lived in the big house with the green roof gave her a teeny tiny plastic bottle of water and shooed her away. Debbie was so thirsty she drank the bottle of water in one big gulp. Her water was all gone again. And so this is a story about our experience in Kitigan-Zibi, because at my house still to this day, I have 5 or 6 bottles of water in blue delivered to my house every week. So that's a reality still some of our communities face. And Scholastic said, well, what is this story about? And it's about this little girl who's knocking on the house with the green roof. And they didn't want a visual representation of that. But Lee and Lowe in the States picked it up, and in their version of it, I wrote an extra page. There's a big picture of Parliament in the back. And they're knocking nicely and singing with smiles and togetherness. And we're saying, hey, knock, knock, knock. We don't have clean water. Help us get there together. And so, it is what it is right now. I think, and I know I'm in great company here, and I love seeing, Pinot up there. We are all well aware of, the importance of clean water because we are here. And I think sometimes it's other people who need that education. And, as a mother of 4, all my children are back there with their spouses, their boyfriends. If I can make a little bit of a change and have a voice, then anyone can in any platform, whether you're a teacher, whether you are a performer, whether you are a student, or if it's just sharing things that you learn along the way, we can all make a difference. And so I was not expecting this award, so thank you, Laura. I really appreciate it. And
Please pass off and shine to the Secretary with you repeat, and thank you, Naomi, for that wonderful introduction. Next, I am pleased to introduce Margot Sunter, Vice Chair of the Board of Directors, to introduce our next recipient.
Wow, that was really something. I can see why Naomi was so impressed. And the work that you're doing, I hope that the Ottawa Riverkeeper can play some small part in that. Each year at our Riverkeeper Gala, we name an Honorary Riverkeeper. The title is given to someone who embodies the spirit of the Ottawa River by actively supporting the watershed and making a difference to its well-being. Unfortunately, for those who attended our gala this year, Roy MacGregor was not able to attend. Fortunately for us today, he is, and we are beyond thrilled to welcome the 2025 Honorary Riverkeeper, Roy MacGregor, to share a few words with us. It's been 10 years since Roy MacGregor wrote a series of articles for the Globe and Mail, documenting his travels down 16 of Canada's great rivers. The Ottawa River was one of them. The series became a best-selling book titled Original Highways. In it, Roy relates the storied history of our waterways and his own passionate belief in their importance to Canada and our duty to protect them for the health and enjoyment of future generations. The headline in his Globe piece about the Ottawa River was very succinct, priceless and precarious. Despite its size, beauty, and pivotal role in the history of the nation, the article continued, the mighty Ottawa is a river in trouble. After more than a century of abuse, it badly needs cleaning up, and the battle to make that happen has begun. During his illustrious career as a writer, Roy discovered everything from federal politics to hockey to reconciliation and the many aspects of life that truly define Canada. And he was named an officer of the Order of Canada in 2005 in recognition of his contributions to evoking Canadian identity through his writing. Please welcome to the stage the newest Honorary Riverkeeper, Roy MacGregor.
Thank you so much, Margot. And to the Ottawa Senators fans sitting with sunshine, if you like what I say, do you mind? I wouldn't mind a cheer like that. That was pretty good. So how did I end up involved in this? It's somewhat by accident. In 2005, the CPC held this contest to name the 7 Wonders of Canada. And oh, by the way, Jerry, I must say thank you for that education. It's fantastic. They chose a panel of 3, but Sheila Rogers began it in the morning radio show, and it spread to the national TV thing. Peter Mansbridge kind of took it over, and they had people send in suggestions for the 7 Wonders of Canada. And they come in and they flooded, and it became much bigger than they ever thought. And they had 3 panelists who would decide at the end. I was one of them. And people suggested things like, obviously, Niagara Falls, the CN Tower, Quebec City, the Rockies, like the generic things that you think of. And you ever having trouble whittling it down? The one that got the most votes, ironically, was the Sleeping Giant up in Thunder Bay. It got like 60,000 votes right off the top. And so we were sitting around debating about what we could choose, and I thought, why are we so obsessed with location? What if we picked an icon that had nothing to do with specific location, but was everywhere? And I suggested the canoe. And they liked that, and they went for it, and they voted it in at the expense of Thunder Bay. And so we voted, and it came out, and it was the first one announced, Wonders of Canada, number 1, the canoe. And then the next week, believe it or not, on assignment, I was told to go to Thunder Bay. So when I got off the airplane, there were television cameras and radio stations and a big X on my back. But they kind of laughed it off. They gave me a framed portrait of the Sleeping Giant, and it deserves to be there. But that's how I got interested in canoes. I wrote a book about the canoe. And then, because I had used this catchphrase, no canoe, no Canada, which people kept quoting, I kept thinking, actually, no rivers, no canoe. And so I started getting interested in rivers. And I began to think about rivers that I might write about. And I had no idea how fascinating they were. Just the stories that come up that I didn't know. Like when I was in the Gatineau River, I was told about the tax revolt in Brennan's Hill decades and decades and decades ago. And sometimes I think maybe Canada needs one again. But fascinating story. The Ottawa River itself, I didn't know this. I became fascinated by it, only to find out from my own father that one of our relatives was involved in this 1885 excursion up the Nile River to save General Gordon, who was surrounded in Khartoum, and they didn't think that he would survive. They thought, how can they get someone up there to help him? They remembered, well, we use these rivermen and loggers to go up during the Riel Rebellion. Let's send some loggers, some rivermen, over and go up the Nile, and we'll save Gordon. So they gathered about 200 of them here in Ottawa, put them on a ship, took them down to Montreal, or train, I guess it was. And they got to Montreal where they were going to get aboard a large ship, and they got drunk out of their minds. Some of them didn't even make the ship. They got to Quebec City, they got drunk again. They got over, they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, they got to they stopped at Sydney, and then they got drunk, kept getting drunk in Sydney. There was an incident where one of the men walked into a school, he was quite drunk, and walked into a school and took over the class and began teaching, and the police had to go and remove the teacher. So it was quite funny. By the time they got to Britain, by the way, they weren't allowed to leave the ship, and they had guards set up to refuse them landing rights. Off they went to do the Nile. They did a spectacular job, but they did not quite get there in time. People marveled at their skills in going up the river and handling currents and rapids. And it really was quite a glorious story. They came back. They felt they hadn't done the job. They were disappointed, but Canada celebrated them wonderfully. They had a parade down Spark Street, as a matter of fact, in Ottawa. And some of the men had parakeets on their shoulders. Some of the men were dancing with monkeys that they picked up and down. I mean, these stories aren't taught in our schools. They should be. And so I began thinking, my own connection with this river shed and that, which I didn't think qualified me for something like this unbelievable honor, which I thank you for, Margot. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I was born in Whitney, which is really part of that watershed. The Madawaska goes right by there. My mother was born in a tent on Algonquin Park. Her father was a ranger. And of course, they're near the source of that source in that direction of this watershed. And so the Madawaska River goes all the way down. I've been on it many, many, many times. I paddled because my wife and I were extremely interested in canoe tripping for many, many years. We did the Mattawa, we did the marvelous Des Moines, for example. We did the Petawawa several times, and I had the great privilege of taking the Fraser family up there, the sons and grandsons of Blair Fraser, the Maclean's editor who had died there in an accident in 1969. They had a plaque had been put up there right at the spot, both as a warning and as a tribute to someone who spoke and wrote about our country so eloquently. And we took, someone had torn the plaque off the rock and thrown it into the river, but someone then found it, saw it glistening in the sunlight, retrieved it, and so I took the family up there with my friend Phil and Phil Chad, and we went and put it back. And that was a wonderful thing. But also I've been on the Gatineau, I've been on the Rideau, of course, I've been on the Mississippi, the Madawaska. I've dunked in every one of them at the Rideau, I think. So, and the Gatineau. But it's just wonderful to have those kind of memories and to find out that there's a group like this that dedicates itself to not only preserving the histories and that, but preserving the quality. And that story that we just heard about the drinking water, and I just shudder inside to think that I'm part of a society that would allow that to happen. This is why something like the Riverkeeper exists, that you can raise these issues and keep them on the table so they're not knocked off for some trivial little thing, but they're important things. They're not something that's found on the floor of the House of Commons. It's something that's found up in Pittsburgh and farther north and all over the country. That's the kind of thing you do, and you do it right here from the Ottawa River, which is one of the truly great rivers of the world. I remember reading once that it may be the most magnificent river that's not overly dominated by occupation and industry. There is a lot, of course, but there's nothing compared to what are on those other major rivers. And so we can be so proud and so lucky to be a part of this system And I like that metaphor where water is mother. And so that we are standing over our mother, the Ottawa River, the whole watershed. I appreciate so much this, and I'm so proud of what you do, and such an honor to be here today. And thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, merci beaucoup.
So now please give a big thank you to all the individuals who have taken the time to present here today and share their wins with you all. Before we move to the final remarks with Laura, I would like to welcome Dave Rayner, our managing director, to the stage.
Thank you, Maxime. Bonjour, good afternoon. So before wrapping up today's program, I want to express our deep gratitude to a group who help make Ottawa Riverkeeper what it is, our volunteers. À nos bénévoles, votre temps, votre énergie, votre engagement sont le moteur de toutes nos actions. Whether you've joined a shoreline cleanup, hosted at the Learning Lab, helped at an event, or joined the board or one of our committees, you make a real difference for all of us. Here's a fun fact for you. In the past year, our volunteers have contributed over 5,000 hours in support in protecting our river and celebrating this wonderful river. So thanks, Brad. Thank you. That's thousands of hours spent collecting data, supporting programs, welcoming visitors, and lending a hand wherever needed. Merci à tous et à toutes pour votre appui et votre dévouement. Your engagement across the watershed inspires us every single day. Sans vous, notre travail n'aura pas la même impact ni la même portée. Now, among these volunteers, there are about 120 people who have been especially engaged. They've shown up again and again, lending their hands, their ideas, and their hearts to our shared mission. And I'd like to take a moment to recognize them. I'm going to, on the screen, Liam, we're going to have these names, and they're listed in alphabetical order by last name, and you might be able to look for yourself. You might see them on there. We've got 3 different slides, and so we'll just cycle through them. But these people have all, in their own way, made a very big contribution to the success of Ottawa Riverkeeper in the last year. And as a means, as a way of thanks, what we would like to do is, before you leave this, if you do see your name on this list, before you leave this afternoon, come find me. I'll probably be over on this wall, just over here, and come find me. I have a small token of appreciation to show you, which I forgot to bring.
I have
an official custom Ottawa Riverkeeper roof. So come see me. So again, maybe at the end too, we'll just have the list after our final announcements. We'll have the list just on. We'll play it for a little longer, just to people have a chance to look for the names. But thanks again for this great group. I know some of you are out here. I've seen a few of you already today. And again, thank you very much. You make it a lot easier for us, and your contributions are noted, and we thank you so much. Thank you.
And if for some reason you have volunteered in the last year and don't see your name up there, come make the case. You might be too deserving. Un énorme merci. Moi, j'aimerais dire un énorme merci personnel aux bénévoles incroyables, qui sont incroyablement généreux avec leur temps. Oui, c'est vrai, grâce à vous, la rivière s'est connue et protégée. So thank you so much again to Dentons and also to Bytown Catering for sponsoring this event. I want to thank Maker House for providing the gifts for those who were celebrated today. And getting the opportunity to come together like this, I find it very inspiring. I will be stepping away from today with a deeper resolve to do the work that I do with this organization. So thank you for that. And we really could not be holding this event without the support of Dentons and Bytown and those who have made it possible. I also want to thank our incredible guest speakers. Yes, you received awards, but you also gave speeches, so thank you. Roy MacGregor, Sunshine Tenasco, Naomi Sarazin, Margot Sunter, and also Lampros Stougiannos, and Jerry Lanouette for providing us with such a heartfelt welcome today. Award recipients, we're going to do some photos. We have a backdrop here, the Ottawa Riverkeeper one there. I was told not outside, it's too chilly, so we'll do the inside backdrop version. And so please, award recipients gather by the backdrop as the event concludes. And so I really want to thank everybody, all of you, for joining us today. We together share our waterways, the love, the care, the respect that they deserve, because we know, as literally as it could be, that our lives depend on water. So with that, thank you for being part of this movement. Next year, when we come together at our annual public meeting, Ottawa Riverkeeper will be celebrating our 25th anniversary. And so, I don't know, we haven't planned it yet, but like that one should be a party, right? Yes. So very much looking forward to that with you. This concludes the annual public meeting. Thank you, miigwech, merci.